Tired of the same old tourist traps? Join me as we explore the hidden gems of Thailand, uncovering ancient ruins far more captivating than Angkor Wat. That you've seen Angkor Wat in every travel guide, every Instagram reel, every glossy magazine. But what if I told you that Thailand holds secrets just as grand, perhaps even more mysterious, that barely make it onto tourist maps? This is not Angkor. This is not crowded. And this is where our journey begins. Thailand's history is often overshadowed by its neighbors, Vietnam, Cambodia, even Myanmar. But long before modern borders were drawn, ancient civilizations flourished on this very soil. Forgotten kingdoms built mighty temples, sanctuaries, and citadels that still whisper stories of power, devotion, and fall. These ruins are more than stone and silence. They're chapters of a book that was nearly lost to time. While Angkor draws millions, Thailand's ruins offer a very different kind of magic. There's no pushing through crowds, no selfie sticks in your face, just you and the echo of forgotten empires. Why did so many of these sites fade into obscurity? Were they destroyed in war? Abandoned during plague? Or simply swallowed by the relentless jungle and a changing world? Over the next 10 scenes, we'll journey across Thailand, from the cradle of its civilization to mountaintop sanctuaries and forgotten royal cities. We'll meet gods carved in sandstone, kings whose names were erased, and monks who built sanctuaries that defied time. You'll discover how these temples reflect not just Thailand's religion, but also the politics, astronomy, and philosophy of ancient Southeast Asia. From massive Buddha statues to sacred lotus ponds aligned with the stars, there's meaning in every stone. So if you think you've seen everything Thailand has to offer, think again. Our next stop is the very birthplace of Thai civilization, Sukhothai. But before we get there, ask yourself this: what if the true wonders of Thailand aren't the ones you've already seen, but the ones history nearly erased? Have you ever walked through a city where every stone was once touched by kings? Welcome to Sukhothai, the birthplace of Thai identity and a kingdom that still breathes through ruins. Long before Bangkok ruled, before Ayutthaya rose to glory, there was Sukhothai, a name that means dawn of happiness. This ancient city wasn't just a seat of power, it was where the soul of Thailand was born. This is no abandoned ruin. It's a sacred blueprint of what Thailand became. Its script, its art, even the graceful Sukhothai-style Buddha, all began here. In the 13th century, the Sukhothai kingdom declared independence from the Khmers. It was a rebellion not just of politics, but of culture. The rulers here didn't just want to survive, they wanted to build a legacy. And they did, stone by stone, prayer by prayer. Wat Mahathat, the heart of the city, still stands proud. Once the royal temple, it houses over 200 chadis and Buddha images. As you walk between them, you don't just see history, you feel the rhythm of a kingdom dreaming itself into being. Notice the symmetry, the stillness. Even time walks slowly here. Hear that? No horns. No crowds. Just cicadas, breeze through trees, and your own breath catching in awe. Unlike Angkor Wat, where tourism buzzes like a hive, here you'll meet monks meditating under banyan trees, and caretakers who treat each brick like sacred relics. Sukhothai was more than a city, it was a declaration. Under King Ramkhamhaeng, they created the Thai alphabet, pioneered laws, and etched a philosophy of governance that emphasized justice and Buddhist virtue. But how did such a powerful kingdom vanish into time? Why are its stories barely mentioned outside Thailand? Some say it was absorbed peacefully into Ayutthaya. Others believe it was weakened by internal strife. No war, no fire, no cataclysm, just the quiet fade of power. Yet, there's something odd here. A section of the temple with collapsed columns that no one rebuilt. Inscriptions speak of divine voices heard before storms. Legends whisper that the kingdom's decline began after one golden Buddha vanished. Could a single stolen relic unravel an empire? Or was it something deeper, a spiritual warning ignored? Sukhothai may no longer be a kingdom, but its soul is alive. And if you listen closely, you might hear its ancient heartbeat. As we leave these peaceful grounds, we travel forward in time, but not too far, to another mighty city that rose from Sukhothai's ashes. In the next scene, we journey to Ayutthaya, where ambition reached its peak. And where power met its downfall. What happens when a kingdom builds itself into legend, only to be erased in fire? Welcome to Ayutthaya, the city that once rivaled the world's greatest, now resting in sacred ruins. If Sukhothai was the soul of Thailand, Ayutthaya was its crown. Founded in 1350, this city became one of the richest, most cosmopolitan centers in Asia. Traders came from Persia, Japan, China, Portugal, even the French court marveled at its glory. And now, it lies in silence. Once, over 1 million people lived here. Today, only whispers remain. But those whispers tell stories of grandeur, betrayal, and a fall that shocked the world. At its peak, Ayutthaya was called the Venice of the East. Canals crisscrossed the city, elephants paraded in golden armor, and royal decrees echoed through halls lined with murals from the Jataka tales. Wat Phra Sangphut, the royal temple, stood at the city's heart. 3 enormous chedis still remain, housing the ashes of kings. As you walk around them, the symmetry and power are undeniable. Yet something about the sight feels unfinished. As if a page was torn out of time. Step closer to the temple walls, and the air changes. The red bricks radiate a warmth that doesn't fade, even in shadow. And if you close your eyes, you might hear distant gongs and the crackle of something more sinister. In 1767, Ayutthaya was invaded by the Burmese. What followed was brutal. Temples were burned, gold was stripped from Buddhas, and the capital was reduced to ash. But some historians question, was it just war? Or was Ayutthaya already falling apart from within? Local legends speak of an astrologer who warned the last king of a blood moon, a bad omen. They say a sacred white elephant, symbol of royal fortune, vanished into the forest days before the final battle. Could fate have spoken? And then there's this, perhaps the most photographed image in Ayutthaya. But few know that this Buddha head was not placed there. After the fall, it was discarded and forgotten. Nature reclaimed it, wrapping it in roots, as if the earth itself tried to protect what humans tried to destroy. Ayutthaya's fall wasn't just political, it was spiritual. Its temples, once full of prayer and power, are now quiet reminders of impermanence. Power fades. Gold melts. But faith endures. As we walk away from the grand ruins, ask yourself, how can a kingdom so vast, so admired, vanish so completely? In the next scene, we leave the royal roads behind and follow narrow, winding paths into the hills of eastern Thailand, where a forgotten Khmer temple rises with the sunrise, watching over the land like a sentinel from another age. What ancient power chose to build a temple on top of a sleeping volcano? Deep in eastern Thailand, Phanom Rung rises like a forgotten citadel, older than Ayutthaya, richer in mystery than Angkor. As the sun peaks over the horizon, a stairway appears, carved directly into a mountain spine. You're not looking at a palace or a fortress, but a temple built for gods who watched the sky and judged kings. Welcome to Phanom Rung, Thailand's most impressive Khmer ruin, perched on the rim of an extinct volcano. It's not just the location that astounds, it's the silence, the precision, and the strange energy humming in the stone. Constructed between the 10th and 13th centuries, Phanom Rung predates the Sukhothai and Ayutthaya kingdoms. It belonged to the ancient Khmer Empire, the same that built Angkor Wat. But this was no mere outpost. Phanom Rung was a spiritual observatory. Every year, the sun rises or sets perfectly through its 15 doorways. A cosmic alignment that even modern architects struggle to explain. Was it divine guidance or astonishing astronomical knowledge? Either way, this wasn't built randomly. But why here? Why would ancient priests build such a monumental temple in such a remote place? Some say it marked the eastern edge of the Khmer's spiritual realm, a threshold between the human and the divine. Local folklore speaks of a guardian spirit buried beneath the temple. Legend has it, whoever disturbs the core stone will awaken the mountain. And then there's this carving, on the lintel above the main entrance, a depiction of Vishnu reclining on a serpent. It mysteriously vanished in the 1960s. Only to reappear decades later in a museum in Chicago. After intense protests, it was returned. But how was it taken? And why that image? Some believe it holds secrets about celestial cycles, encoded in ancient myth. What if I told you a temple here was once a monument of surrender, later reclaimed in defiance by the very people who lost it? Welcome to Wat Phu Khao Thong, where stones remember both humiliation and triumph. On the edge of Ayutthaya's ruins, far from the crowds, a striking white chedi rises toward the sky. It's not crumbling or moss-covered like its neighbors. Instead, it gleams under the sun, silent, enormous, mysterious. This is Wat Phu Khao Thong, or the Golden Mount. But despite its beauty, this monument carries a past far more complicated, and darker, than it first appears. In 1569, Ayutthaya fell to Burmese invaders. To celebrate their conquest, the Burmese king ordered the construction of a victory monument on this very spot. It wasn't a Thai temple. It was a symbol of domination, but the story didn't end there. Decades later, the Thai reclaimed Ayutthaya, and instead of destroying the monument, they transformed it. A new layer of Thai-style architecture was built over the Burmese base. They renamed it, rededicated it, and redefined it, not as a mark of defeat, but as one of resilience. This temple literally contains two histories, one wrapped around the other. Victory and loss, rebellion and rebirth, all in stone, but some say there's more to it. Beneath the base lies a sealed chamber, supposedly containing relics, or perhaps a royal oath. Old monks whisper that anyone who tries to enter will face visions of Ayutthaya's burning. Others point to the chedi's height, built unusually tall for its time, as evidence it was also used as a lookout point. Or a warning tower. Why the steep climb? And why the unnerving quiet at the summit? Climbing its narrow staircase, you feel the air thicken. The city disappears below. Every step feels like a passage through time. At the top, the wind rushes at you like a memory trying to return. You're not just standing above Ayutthaya, you're standing on a monument that tried to erase it. And failed. Wat Phu Khao Thong isn't the grandest temple, nor the most visited. But it's one of the few where architecture becomes an act of storytelling, where rebellion is carved into the bricks. It asks an uncomfortable question: can we ever truly erase the past, or can we only bury it beneath new meaning? As we leave this hill of silent pride and pain, we head deeper into Thailand's forgotten heartlands. Our next stop lies hidden in the dense forests of Isan, where a temple older than any kingdom still guards its ancient secrets. What if I told you there's a temple that doesn't point to the heavens, but instead bows toward the earth? Welcome to Muang Tam, a place where devotion flows downward into the soil itself. In every temple across Asia, you'll notice a common theme: altars face the rising sun, towers reach toward the gods. But here, at Muang Tam, things are different. This ancient Khmer sanctuary faces the earth, nestled in the lowlands beneath the more famous Phanom Rung. This site is often overlooked. Yet, some archaeologists say it's even older and more mysterious. Built around the 10th to 11th century, Muang Tam is a Hindu temple dedicated primarily to Shiva, but its architecture holds secrets that don't quite fit the standard Khmer blueprint. Most temples elevate the sanctum, Muang Tam does the opposite. The central shrine is lower than its surroundings. It's called the temple that bows. Was it a gesture of humility? A symbol of descent into sacredness? Or something even more enigmatic? Some believe it reflects a local cosmology, a worldview where the earth itself is holy, where the divine isn't above, but beneath our feet. These ponds aren't decorative. They were designed for purification rituals. Some scholars believe they symbolize the oceans of Hindu mythology, surrounding Mount Meru, the center of the universe. But the greatest mystery lies in a stone slab found buried near the temple. Inscribed in a now extinct Khmer script, it hints at an underground chamber sealed with fire and oath. Locals say at night, when the fog rolls in, you can hear voices chanting beneath the ground. Others claim dreams of drowning after walking barefoot through the ruins, and then there's the doorway facing directly west, toward the setting sun and the realm of ancestors. Why was that passage sealed? Who was it meant to keep out? Or keep in? The deeper you walk, the quieter it gets. Even the birds seem to avoid this place. The scent of moss and incense fills the air. And around sunset, the entire temple glows red. As if reliving its birth from fire and stone, Muang Tam reminds us that faith doesn't always reach upward. Sometimes, it folds inward, into silence, humility, and mystery. It challenges our assumptions about what a sacred space should be. As we leave this forgotten sanctuary, ask yourself, in a world obsessed with climbing higher, what does it mean to build down into the earth instead? Next, we follow a path less taken, to a ruined monastery with no name on the maps and carvings no one has translated. A place not even locals like to visit after dark. What if a temple was built so long ago? Even its name has been lost. Hidden in the jungle, this nameless monastery guards inscriptions no one can read, and stories no one dares to tell. There are no signs pointing here. No guides. No ticket booths. Just a narrow dirt path, tangled with vines and whispered warnings. Locals call it the monastery that forgot its name. But what they really mean is, they've chosen to forget. This isolated structure sits deep in the forest near the Cambodian border. It doesn't appear on most maps, and there are no surviving royal records. But from the architectural style, lintels in early Khmer fashion, lotus columns, you know it dates back over 1,000 years, unlike the temples of Ayutthaya or even Phanom Rung. This site is modest, crumbling bricks, half-buried statues, and a central sanctuary whose door has long since collapsed. But it's what's inside the inner chamber that has baffled researchers. Carved deep into the rear wall is a script, not Sanskrit, not Pali, not Khmer as we know it. The characters resemble something older, more geometric, with symbols that some say resemble constellations. Or seals. In 2004, a local farmer reported seeing glowing light near the site at night. Paranormal teams dismissed it as swamp gas. But when archaeologists visited a year later, they found animal remains arranged in a near-perfect spiral just inside the entrance, and that wall of script? Attempts to copy it have failed. Photographs come out blurred. Plaster rubbings disintegrate. A local monk once tried to translate the symbols, and disappeared from his village 2 weeks later. The legend says the temple wasn't meant for worship, but for confinement. Whispers speak of a monk who turned to forbidden rites, trying to unlock something beneath the temple. Others believe it was built by exiles, far from royal eyes, to bury a forgotten truth. Here, even sound feels different. No birdsong. No rustling. Just breath and heartbeat. The temperature drops noticeably when you step near the central shrine, as if something inside has never warmed. Thailand is filled with sacred places. But not all sacredness is light. Some sites exist on the edge of legend and warning, places where history gives way to myth, and myth bleeds into fear. As the sun sets and shadows stretch long across the stone, one thing is certain, whatever once lived here is still watching, but we can't stay here long. Next, we return to a known place with an unknown purpose. A temple carved with scenes of flight, war, and something that looks almost extraterrestrial. Could ancient Thai temples have been aligned with the stars? Could they have been built not just for gods, but for something greater? What Thep Phanom might just hold the answer. Rising along the banks of the Mekong River, where the mist curls like smoke and silence feels ceremonial, Wat Thep Phanom doesn't just reflect ancient Thai spirituality, it questions our entire place in the cosmos. From a distance, it's just another sacred site. But up close, things start to change. Legends say this temple was built to enshrine a bone relic of the Buddha himself, but even older texts describe it as the temple that spoke to the sky. Some archaeologists believe it stands on the foundations of an earlier structure, centuries older than the current one. Along the outer wall, intricate bas-reliefs show scenes of flying chariots, celestial battles, and sages pointing to constellations. But here's the strange part, the constellations matched not the current night sky, but how it looked more than 2,000 years ago, that would predate Thailand's organized kingdoms. So who was looking up, and why? One lintel, rarely photographed, shows what appears to be a glowing orb descending toward the earth, surrounded by flames, with kneeling figures watching in awe. Some interpret it as a stylized Bodhi tree or an allegory for enlightenment. Others, including fringe researchers, believe it depicts an ancient aerial phenomenon, maybe even contact. In 1992, a monk meditating at the site claimed he heard a low-frequency hum resonating from the earth. Seismic tests revealed nothing unusual. But visitors today still report a faint vibration under their feet, especially near the main altar. Could the temple have been a place of astronomical calibration, or a symbolic portal between realms? As the wind picks up across the Mekong, wind chimes in the temple courtyard create an eerie harmony. The scent of incense hangs thick in the air. Even at midday, the temple seems caught in a timeless hour, neither night nor day. Ancient Thai temples often reflect Hindu-Buddhist cosmology, Mount Meru at the center, surrounded by oceans and celestial bodies. But what Phanom bends that tradition? Here, the mountain isn't the center. The sky is. The layout reflects celestial patterns, including the lunar cycle, solar solstice points, and even eclipses. As night falls and the stars emerge above the temple spire, we're left with more questions than answers. Was this temple simply a devotion to the heavens? Or was it a message to something beyond them? From here, we travel south, to a site swallowed by time and jungle, a temple with no roof, no center, and no known builder. What if a temple was built with no altar, no idol, and no center at all? What was it worshipping, or what was it hiding? Welcome to the Hollow Temple, where absence speaks louder than stone. In southern Thailand, where the jungle thickens and history grows mossy, there's a ruin most people never reach. Not because it's dangerous, but because there's nothing there. And yet, no ruin has spoken louder. This is the Hollow Temple. It has no name, no known date of construction, no relics, and no god inside. When first discovered in the 1960s by a team of forestry officials, the structure was dismissed as a broken stupa. But as excavation continued, the strange shape emerged, concentric rings of stone, spiraling inward to nothing. No foundation, no idol, no roof ever existed. At the very center, a small square platform remains, worn smooth as if touched for centuries, yet surrounded by emptiness. The site appears pre-Buddhist. Local legends claim it was built by a tribe that worshipped silence, that they believed the divine did not live in form, but in space. Carvings on the inner walls are minimalist, simple spirals, dots, and parallel lines. Some scholars say they represent sound waves. Others believe they mimic magnetic fields. In 2008, a Thai physicist visiting the site discovered that certain frequencies echoed perfectly off the temple walls, despite its incomplete structure. Could it have been a kind of acoustic temple? A space designed not for ritual, but for resonance. And why is the moss thicker only on the outermost ring, and not on the interior stones? Even botanists are puzzled. You feel it before you hear it, a subtle hum under your feet. The wind doesn't pass through here the way it should. It circles. Traps sound. The deeper you walk into the spiral, the heavier the air becomes. Birds grow quiet. Even insects avoid the center. In Thai folklore, emptiness is not a void, it is potential. Nirvana itself is described as cessation, not acquisition. Could this temple have been a meditation on that idea? A spiritual architecture not to honor gods, but to unmake the self. The Hollow Temple doesn't offer answers. It offers stillness. And in that stillness, a strange kind of fear. Or is it awe? But our journey doesn't end in silence. One final sight awaits. A ruin recently uncovered, still half buried beneath the earth, that could rewrite what we thought we knew about Thailand's ancient empires. What if a buried city lay beneath your feet, older than Sukhothai, older than Angkor, and still revealing secrets? Welcome to the buried kingdom of Ban Non Wat. Where Thailand's hidden empire may finally be rising from the dust. Beneath the farmland and rice paddies of Isan, where buffalo graze and children play, lies something ancient. Not a temple. Not a ruin. A city. And it's only just begun to wake. This is Phanom Rung, a site that's quietly shaken the archaeological world. And no one saw it coming. First discovered in the early 2000s, this site began as a burial ground. But layer by layer, century by century, the earth peeled back its secret. Beneath the graves, houses. Beneath the houses, tools. Then jewelry. Temples. Trade goods from China. Metalwork predating known Thai metallurgy. What archaeologists are now suggesting is nothing short of incredible. An advanced, organized society existed. Here 3,000 years ago, long before the temples of Sukhothai or Ayutthaya ever rose, could this be Thailand's forgotten first civilization? Among the findings, a perfectly preserved bronze bell with inscriptions no one can read. A chamber of human remains, buried in spirals. A ceramic pot filled with black sand, traced to volcanic soil found only in central Vietnam. Who were these people? Why did they leave no written record? And why did their city vanish so completely? Local legend speaks of a city swallowed by the earth after a night of strange lights in the sky and a loud, thunderous cry. Some dismissed it as folklore. But here we are. And the city is real. Walk the dig site and you feel time crackling in the air. Each footstep crunches over pottery older than some languages. There's no temple music here, just the sound of brush on stone, whispers of discovery, and the occasional gasp when something ancient is uncovered. Thailand's story is changing. For years, its past was told through royal cities and great temples. But here, in the quiet fields of Isan, we see a different narrative, one of ordinary people, artists, farmers, builders. A civilization not erased by war, but by time. This is not the end of the story. It's the beginning. Thailand's ancient ruins aren't just relics. They're messages, from kings, from monks, from vanished peoples who once called this land sacred, so the next time you plan your journey, skip the usual. Step off the path. Touch the stone. Listen to the silence, because the greatest wonders aren't always the ones already discovered. They're the ones waiting for you to find them.